Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the session for today. So how's everybody's feeling? Great, yes. Our speakers for today's session have covered many important areas in relation to remittances and strategies to amplify the development benefits. To conclude the private sector day, I would like to invite a representative from the three co-organizers to be on stage to wrap up the discussion. Please welcome. First, I would like to invite Mr. Mohamed Musa, Director from Negara, Malaysia, to deliver his concluding remarks. Please welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Great to see everyone back in this hall. Many are still here. First and foremost, I wish to say welcome back to the plenary session. I've been entrusted to summarize key points that took place in the breakout session, primarily on the market panel A1, 1A and 2A. I must say that the session has been rather exciting, so I hope that I could do a little bit of justice in sharing some of the key points that was taken down. On the first market stream, 1A, I think some of the key messages that was discussed. Number one is, I think the public and private sector should think more out of the box. I think we've heard that being mentioned in the opening session by the key speakers. For the industry to be more competitive, more convenient, safe, as well as more inclusive. And in relation to this, the advent of innovation and technologies have great potential, as we have heard over and over again today, and have indeed been proven to make remittance services even more competitive, safe, and convenient to the consumers, as well as to the migrants. In one of the sessions, it was generally agreed that technology is a way forward for remittance companies to remain competitive in the market and ensure customers' demand for safe, inclusive and convenient remittance service is well and duly fulfilled. Technology should be used as a backbone in providing remittance services, regardless if it's a fintech or a non-fintech companies. That was one of the points that was highlighted. In the journey towards greater digitalization of remittance services, it was also highlighted that adoption of digital remittance will still be challenging, given the awareness and literacy level of customers and migrants on digital channels. Well, nonetheless, with education, initiative, perseverance, and the right incentives to the customers, I think the rate of adoption will certainly be accelerated. While technology will be the key factor moving forward, I think the traditional remittance through over-the-counters and agent will still be an important role in at least the next 5 years. It is given that cash, as was reiterated, is still king, with a significant number of migrants still preferring to use hard currency, hard cash in conducting remittance. So I think the industry has some way to go before we increase the level of e-remittance from what it is today at about 4 or 5% to a more encouraging level. Another emerging model is providing comprehensive solution for remittance that is tied with other services. I think this model allows remittance operators to build trust in the customer as a reliable and trustable market player by engaging with the consumer with everyday services. I think some of the examples that were mooted include to tie the everyday services from the migrants' local news and music to their favorite food and how they can order their food. This is all to tie in with the solution for remittance, as well as the more serious financial services that can be tied to remittance, such as micro insurance and micro savings services. And the other factor is the need for a more data on migration and remittance for a better policy making. I think we've heard that being mentioned by the Deputy Governor this morning, that data, especially on a regional and international basis, is something that is very desirable in order for a better policy making decision. I think the issue that was highlighted in the second session this afternoon was that there is inadequacy of data and the challenges in gathering relevant and important data on remittance and migration. I think needless to say that without data, it will be difficult for effective analysis on migration and remittances to be performed. This would in turn affect effective policy making to ensure proper and orderly development of the remittance market. And the last point that was discussed was the need for a more harmonized and conducive regulatory and policy framework, as well as partnership between the public and private sector to support greater development in the remittance market. So one of the key messages is for various jurisdictions in the region to ensure more consistent and harmonized regulatory framework for remittances and migration. And for the second session this afternoon was on de-risking. I think much has been said about this risking. That was also mentioned in today's session, particularly in the morning. De-risking, it is loud and clear that it remains a key issue in the industry, affecting players from all parts of the world, not only in the Asia-Pacific region, but globally. So in this regard, there is a call for regulators, central banks to provide adequate guidance on expectations on banks and remittance services providers in respect to maintaining relationship within the remittance market. Regulators should also assure the banking industry that remittance sector is also subject to similar regulatory scrutiny, if not more. And at the same time, what was discussed is the remittance market should also take proactive actions and initiatives to improve perception on its level of professionalism and compliance standards. The next point that came out quite significantly was that the banking institution should also be clear on what is expected on it in terms of regulatory compliance. Last but not least, while there is alternative such as cryptocurrencies to be explored, I think the access to bank account remains key in the provision of remittance. I think that's all I have in my summation. I believe that this will be compiled later in the report that we will share with every participant. So with that, I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
We now invite Mr. Isaku Endo from the World Bank Group to deliver his concluding remarks. Please welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And I'm asked to report back to you on the discussions in Stream B. The first one, the digital economy, and the second one is the innovation and inclusive remittance business. But before starting, this report is created based on the work that many of our teams. So thank you, first of all, thank you very much. And then the report shows that the richness of discussions. So digital economy discussions, that I think the focus was the cost, and electric remittance is much lower. And also the discussion about the stickiness of cash. Cash is really sticky. People want to continue to use the cash, and then also even they receive money in electric form, but they withdraw cash and then send remittances, and that it's been challenging to change. But there are some examples that has been successful. For example, monetary referral system, and those were helpful. Those pilots were helpful to spread those changes in digital form. Also, there was a discussion on the connecting the remittances in other types of products. For example, that insurance and then other type of products, but supported by the regulatory framework. And also the regulatory framework, they talk about the KYC, AMC requirements, and also consumer protection. And then I think it relates to the general principles and other international standards, but the panel highlighted the importance of payment systems, infrastructure, and the interoperability, as well as the strong cooperation among private sector entities. And then the next session on innovation, there are some synergy between the stickiness of cash. There was a discussion around the use of cash is persistent. But I think the discussion was more focused on the use of AI. AI is artificial intelligence is really helping to remittance companies or the private sector, for example, for compliance and other the operational aspects. And also the discussion was around what motivates innovation. And some panels was discussed about the profit as the biggest driver, and then others talk about more on the needs and then innovation, needs for innovation. But there was a highlight on the profit. Also, there was in this panel we had discussions around microinsurance, as Enik just mentioned. That in this panel as well, that some pilots and then products in microinsurance. And then in that there was a discussion on the importance of financial education or financial education campaign, and then informing the beneficiaries of those insurance policies. And then lastly, they discussed again about the mobile wallet, of those technologies and use of cash. And then still, there's a strong highlight on the people wants to use cash. And but with the it may take time, but they highlight also the promise of new technology to serve clients, especially remote areas. And there are a lot of opportunities to bring these innovations and new technology, new business models forward. And then I just scratched the face of the discussions, but also there was interesting questions from the audience. And then I think I'd like to quote that innovation happens when new technology, old problems, great ideas meets together. And then I think that this industry or this sector has this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Isaku. Lastly, we would like to invite Mr. Mauro Martini from IFAD to conclude today's session. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. So I'm here in front of you to report back to you on the third stream, on savings and investments. We think that the first point that we can extrapolate from the discussions that we had today is that there are two different pillars that need to be understood. One is on savings and the other one is on investments. There are different ways to approach them. First you save, and then you invest. And migrant investors can be more sophisticated than that we think in their financial actions. And different products are needed for the different kind of migrants and for the different behaviors, both for savings and for investments. The second key point that we think was raised during the discussions is know your diaspora. Diaspora is not an homogeneous group of people. There is diaspora, and the migrant investors profile is definitely a very much needed instrument. Data, we know, are slowly improving, but we don't have enough information on where migrants come from, where they want to invest, where they are residing, their status in the countries of destination, and finally also the impact that they want to achieve. But also the impact that we want to achieve as facilitators of those investments. It would be great to harmonize the methodology of collection of data for the creation of a comprehensive migration profile in that sense. Data is key not only for the statistical institutions of the various governments, of course. They are very critical also, and especially for the private sector. For all actors and companies who want to enter in the market of investment, provide for good business products and propositions. As it is for remittances, migration corridors approaches have to be tackled also for investment purposes. We always have to remember that we are going to work on both sides of the corridor. We are working on host communities and also in the countries of origin. In that respect, we listen to many examples of different mechanisms. Private sector companies and international institutions share the best practices and products that they are making available currently in the various markets in Asia Pacific, but they made also some references to other regions like Latin America and Africa in particular. Some good examples of diaspora bonds, seed capital matching funds, crowdfunding platforms, varying from the type of diaspora they are trying to address, and also the impact that they want to achieve, have been shared during the day. Another issue that has been prominent in the discussions was the lack of marketing and awareness campaigns. And it was mentioned by several panelists as an issue to be addressed. Migrants need to be very aware of the various options that they have if they want to invest in their countries of origin. We always have to keep in mind that they are investing their own money. We had an example of diaspora bonds, for instance, in Nepal that didn't work because of the fact that it was too sophisticated, probably, but also because there was a clear lack of marketing. The last point, but not the least, is partnership, the importance of partnership. Partnerships between private, public, and civil societies are mutual beneficial and crucial for different reasons. They are important to create technical expertise, but also to cover for weak institutions and improve the complementarity of the different actions. With this, I think we have summarized in brief the discussion that we had during the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mauro. Thank you once again to all the representatives for the very comprehensive wrap-up session. For the next session, we'll hand over the Remittances Awards 2018 Asia Pacific to the person in charge, Mr. Hugo Cuevas-Moore, Director International Money and Transfer Conferences. Thank you.